Vasily Krotov's nets had never failed him. In 30 years of fishing on the Volchia River, he had learned to sense every movement under the water. But on the morning of May 7, 2007, something went wrong. The net was heavy, too heavy for a normal catch. Vasily turned on the winch, and the rope stretched to its limit. The water near the shore bubbled as if the river was resisting, unwilling to give up its secret. "What's caught there?" muttered the fisherman, wiping sweat from his forehead. When the net appeared on the surface, Vasily's heart skipped a beat. Something white and airy was tangled in the mesh, a dress, a wedding dress. Krotov carefully pulled the find ashore. The fabric was surprisingly well preserved. Lace, beads, pearl buttons, everything was in place. Only the smell of the river had permeated every thread. The local old-timers immediately remembered. 15 years ago, a newlywed couple disappeared in the village of Beregovoye, Anna and Mikhail Sokolov, right from their wedding reception. Their car was found near the bridge over the Volchia River, but they themselves were never found. Local police officer Petrov barely glanced at the dress and immediately called the regional authorities. The case was too high profile to be dealt with at the local level. "Igor Semenovich, phone call for you." The secretary poked her head into the pensioner's office. "It's from Beregovoye." Morozov reluctantly picked up the phone. At 70, he wanted peace, but the past would not let him go, especially the Sokolov case. It remained a burden on his conscience. "We found the wedding dress," the local police officer reported briefly. "It was in Krotov's nets. It's in good condition." Morozov was silent. It was May outside, but his mind drifted back to October 1992. A young couple, happy faces in wedding photos, and then, suddenly, nothing. It was as if the earth had swallowed them up. "I'm on my way," he finally said. The drive to Beregovoye took 3 hours. Morozov leafed through the old case file the whole way. Anna Rogova, 19 years old, a graduate of a teacher training college. Mikhail Sokolov, 22 years old, a mechanic at a local factory. They married for love, despite the bride's parents' disapproval. The dress lay on a clean sheet in the village administration office. Morozov put on gloves and carefully picked it up. The fabric was thick and heavy with water. He unfolded the hem and froze. There was a note in a secret pocket. The paper was soggy, but the ink had not run. The handwriting was feminine and neat. "If anyone finds this dress, know that we are leaving of our own free will. Do not look for us. Farewell, A.S." "Anna Sokolova," Morozov read aloud. "She wrote it herself." But something didn't add up. If the newlyweds drowned in the river 15 years ago, why was the dress so well preserved? The Volchia is a fast-flowing river. It should have torn the fabric to shreds or carried it far downstream. Morozov packed the find in a plastic bag. An expert examination would provide answers. In the meantime, he needed to find witnesses to that fateful day. Lydia Rogova lived in the same house as 15 years ago. She had aged considerably. Her hair was completely gray, her hands trembled, and her eyes were faded from tears. "I knew they were dead," she said, looking at the bag with the dress. "I knew it from that very day. A mother's heart knows." "Tell me again about the wedding day," Morozov asked. "Maybe you'll remember something new." Lydia closed her eyes. Memories of that sunny October day came flooding back. The restaurant was decorated with autumn leaves. Anna looked like a princess in her white dress. Mikhail couldn't take his eyes off her. "They left around 10 in the evening," the woman recalled. They said they wanted to be alone, get some fresh air. I thought they would be back soon. And Anna's father? Where was he at that moment? Lydia's face darkened. Vladimir. He was drinking in the corner. He had been drinking since morning. He said that his daughter had ruined her life by marrying a mechanic. Was he against the marriage? Very much so. He dreamed of marrying Anna to his partner's son. They had a business together. They sold spare parts. Morozov wrote down every word. The 1992 case file contained almost nothing about her father's business. At that time, private enterprise was just emerging, and many people hid their income. What happened to the business after his daughter disappeared? Vladimir burned out in 6 months. He drank and sold everything he could. He died of cirrhosis in 1995. Hardly anyone came to his funeral. That's strange. Usually grief brings families together. But in this case, the husband distanced himself from his wife. It was as if he felt guilty. That evening, Morozov sat in a rural hotel and studied old files. The case was handled by Lieutenant Savin, now retired. Witness interviews, examination of the car, combing the shore, everything was done according to the instructions. But it yielded no results. The newlyweds had vanished into thin air, literally. A phone call interrupted his thoughts. Morozov speaking. Igor Semenovich, this is Savin. I hear the Sokolov case has resurfaced. They found the dress in the river with a note. I remember that case. It still hurts my heart. You know what bothered me then? Go on. The car was clean, too clean. In October, after the rains, all the roads were muddy. But Mikhail's Zhiguli looked like it had just come out of the car wash. Even the rims were shiny. Morozov frowned. That detail wasn't in the case file. Why wasn't it recorded in the report? The bosses said not to sweat the small stuff. They said maybe the guy loved his car and took good care of it. But I saw how he drove. He wasn't a stickler for detail. What else do you remember? The bride's father was acting strangely. When we were talking to him, he kept looking at his watch. He seemed to be in a hurry to get somewhere. And when we left, the neighbors saw that he had visitors. They arrived in a black Volga at night. Why didn't you check it out? We did. Rogov said that his partners had come to offer their condolences. Everything seemed fine. After the conversation, Morozov couldn't sleep. There were too many strange things. A clean car by the bridge, a hurried father-in-law, nighttime visitors, and now a dress that was too well preserved. In the morning, criminal investigator Zuev called from the region. Igor Semenovich, the results on the dress are in. Sit down, you'll be surprised. I'm listening. The dress hasn't been in the water for 15 years, 2 or 3 years at most. Possibly less. Morozov's breath caught in his throat. Are you sure? Absolutely. Fabric decomposes in river water according to certain laws. Here, the damage is minimal. And another thing, the note was written with a ballpoint pen. In 1992, those were rare. Newlyweds used ink pens. I checked their school notebooks in the archives. So, someone planted the dress recently? It looks like it. The question is, who and why? Morozov hung up and thought. It seemed that someone wanted the Sokolov case to resurface. But who? And more importantly, why now, 15 years later? He took his official car and drove around the village looking for witnesses. Maybe someone had seen the dress being thrown into the river. The first house he came to was that of Pyotr Gromov, the Sokolov's neighbor. The man was working in his garden, digging potatoes. Peter Ivanovich, can I ask you a few questions? Gromov straightened up and wiped his hands on his pants. I heard about the dress. The whole village is buzzing. Were you friends with Mikhail? Not really friends. We said hello, sometimes helped each other out around the house. He was a good guy. It's a shame it turned out that way. Have you noticed anything unusual lately? Maybe someone strange has been in the village? Gromov thought for a moment. 2 years ago, maybe a little more, I met a woman in the regional center, at the market. She looked familiar, but I couldn't remember her. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was Anna Sokolova. Morozov froze. Are you sure? At first, I didn't believe it. I thought I was seeing things. But I looked closer. It was her. She was older, of course. And she was pregnant. Very pregnant. Did she recognize you? Yes. She turned pale and ran up to me. She asked me not to tell anyone she had seen me. She said she had a new life, and that the past shouldn't be disturbed. And you kept quiet? What could I do? She asked me not to. I thought that if she was alive and well, then that was the right thing to do. But now, after seeing that dress, I wonder if I should have said something. Morozov felt his heart beat faster. If Gromov was telling the truth, then Anna was alive until at least 2005. But then what did the dress in the river mean? Who threw it there and why? Do you remember anything else? What did she look like? What did she say? She was dressed simply, a jacket, jeans. Her hair was shorter, and she was very nervous. She kept looking around, rushing to leave. Did you see her husband? No. She was alone. Morozov thanked Gromov and drove on. Now the picture was beginning to clear up. The newlyweds did not drown in 1992. They were in hiding. But why? And where was Mikhail now? By evening he returned to Lydia Rogova. The woman greeted him warily. More questions? Lydia Vasilyevna, I need the truth. The whole truth about that day. Anna could have survived. The woman turned pale and clutched her heart. What are you saying? She was seen alive in 2005. Pregnant. If there's a chance to find your daughter, don't lose it because of old secrets. Lydia was silent for a long time. Then she slowly walked over to the closet and took out a thick folder. I kept everything, Ani's diaries from childhood. I thought they might come in handy someday. She handed Morozov the worn notebook. This is the last one, from 1992. Morozov opened the notebook to a random page. The handwriting was familiar, the same as on the note in the dress. He leafed through the pages, reading the fragmented thoughts of a 19-year-old girl. And then he came across an entry from October 1st, 1992, a week before the wedding. Misha suggests we disappear. He says he knows how to do it safely. I'm scared, but there's no other way out. My father's debts will kill us. Yesterday, some scary people came to our house. They demanded that my father pay them back. But he wants to pin everything on Misha. He says that since he's part of the family, he should be responsible for everything. Next was an entry from October 5th. It's decided. We'll leave after the reception. Misha has everything arranged. New documents, a new life. I feel sorry for my mother. But otherwise, they'll kill us, or they'll force me to marry that monster Petrov so my father can pay off his debts. Morozov looked up at Lydia. Why did you hide this? The woman began to cry. I was afraid. I'm still afraid. Those people, they're still in town. They've become rich and respected. But back then they said that if anyone mentioned the debts, they wouldn't live to tell the tale. What debts? For what? Vladimir borrowed money from them for his business. A lot of money. But he lost it all. The goods were stolen. The store burned down in a fire. And they had to be paid every month. They offered a choice. Either give them the money or marry Anya to their son, as collateral, sort of. And what did your father choose? At first, he wanted to find the money. He sold everything he had. But it wasn't enough. Then he agreed to the wedding, and Anya fell in love with Misha. So it was a dead end. Morozov closed the diary. Now a lot of things were becoming clear. The newlyweds had staged a suicide to avoid paying back the debt. But someone found out the truth. Someone who had recently thrown a dress into the river. Lydia Vasilyevna. Think carefully. Who else could have known about Anna and Mikhail's plans? I don't know. They were very secretive. Maybe one of Misha's friends. Are his friends still alive? Most of them moved away. In the 90s, everyone went their separate ways. I think Tolya Veselov stayed. He worked with Misha in the same workshop. Morozov wrote down the name. He would talk to Veselov tomorrow. For now, he needed to figure out the main thing. If Anna was alive in 2005, where was she now? And what had happened to the child she was expecting? That night, he dreamed about the wedding reception. The young couple danced to slow music, while the bride's drunk father sat in the corner, staring at his watch. Shadows of strangers flitted past the restaurant window, and in the river, a white dress floated, waiting for its moment to surface. Part 2. Traces to Nowhere. Anatoly Veselov greeted Morozov warily. The man had aged and put on weight. He now worked as a security guard at the same factory where he had once been friends with Mikhail Sokolov. I haven't mentioned Mishka to anyone in 15 years, he said, sitting down on a bench near the gate. And I would have kept quiet. But that dress... What do you know about their disappearance? Veselov lit a cigarette and took a deep drag. Misha came to see me 3 days before the wedding. He was a nervous wreck. He said that he and Anka were in danger. His father-in-law had gotten into debt with some very bad people. And what did Mikhail suggest? To disappear, completely. He said there was someone who could help with the documents. For money, of course. Morozov took out his notebook. Who is this man? Semen Kryuchkov. He lived in the regional center at the time. He was involved in various shady deals. Fake certificates, stamps, documents. Misha said that Kryuchkov could get them new passports. Where would they get the money? Anka had a gold chain that belonged to her grandmother. It was heavy, antique. She also had rings and earrings. Mikhail sold his motorcycle. We got the money we needed. Veselov threw down his cigarette butt and stamped on it. You know what surprised me? Misha was a cowardly guy. And then suddenly he decided to do something like this. He said to me, Tolya, if anything happens, we're dead. Remember that. Did he ask you to lie to the investigators? No, he didn't. But I understood. And when you questioned me, I told you the truth. That they left the banquet and I didn't see them again. Technically, it was honest. Morozov wrote down Kryuchkov's address. We had to check if the old counterfeiter was still alive. Kryuchkov was alive, but he had aged considerably. The 70-year-old man lived in a communal apartment, surviving on his pension and odd jobs. Sokolov's. He squinted, trying to remember. Yes, there was a couple like that in 92, I think. What did you do for them? Passports, good ones. You couldn't tell them apart from the real thing. Back then, the registration system was weak, so it was possible to pull it off. What names did you give them? Kryuchkov thought for a moment. Severov's Maxim and Elena Severov. They said they were going to Siberia, to work in the forests. They didn't check documents very closely there. Why did you remember them? They paid in gold, real gold. The chain was from the Tsarist era, hallmarked. I sold it to a jeweler later and got a good price for it. Morozov felt a rush of excitement. The trail was getting hotter. Do you remember anything else? The girl was very nervous. She kept asking if they would find them. The guy calmed her down, saying that in Siberia they would disappear like smoke. That evening, Morozov called the regional newspaper. Journalist Alexei Vetrov was famous for his ability to find a needle in a haystack. Alexei, I need your help. I'm looking for people named Severov, Maxim, and Elena. They left for the Krasnoyarsk region in 1992. Interesting case? Replied Vetrov. What's the story behind them? A 15-year-old mystery. If you help me find them, you'll get exclusive material. Deal. Give me a couple of days. Vetrov didn't disappoint. 3 days later, he called back with the results. I found your Severyovs. They worked in logging in the village of Tezhny until 1995. Then they moved to the city of Kansk. Maxim got a job as a driver at a bus depot, and Elena became a kindergarten teacher. Are they alive? That's more complicated. Elena died in 2004. In the maternity ward, during childbirth, the daughter survived. Morozov's breath caught in his throat, so Anna had been dead for 3 years. And the child? And Maxim? He disappeared in 2005. He gave up his apartment, quit his job, and took his daughter out of kindergarten. No one has seen them since. What was the girl's name? Katya, Ekaterina Maximovna Severova. She was born in January 2004. Morozov hung up and thought for a moment. So Mikhail was left alone with his little daughter. Where could he have gone? And why did he return to his hometown to throw a dress into the river? The answer came unexpectedly. The local police officer from the neighboring district called. Igor Semenovich. We have a gamekeeper working here. His papers are in order, but there's something I don't like about him. He's too withdrawn. And he has a daughter. He says his wife died. The girl goes to a boarding school. What's the gamekeeper's name? Andrei Lesnoy. But you know what's strange. The girl doesn't look like him at all, and her last name is different, Svetlova. Morozov's heart began to beat faster. How old is the girl? 3 years old, maybe 4. Can you send me a photo of the gamekeeper? An hour later, Morozov received a photo. The man was about 35 years old, thin, with a beard. But his eyes, he remembered those brown eyes from old photos in the case file. Mikhail Sokolov. Now he had to figure out the main thing. Why did he throw his wife's dress into the river? Did he want the case reopened? But why? Morozov drove to the neighboring district. Lesnoy lived in a small house on the edge of the village. The yard was well kept, the vegetable garden watered, the firewood neatly stacked. A man in work clothes came to the gate. Seeing Morozov, he froze. Are you here to see me? Mikhail Sokolov. The man lowered his eyes. I don't know what you're talking about. Your wife's dress was found in the river, the one she wore at her wedding 15 years ago. Lesnoy Sokolov slowly opened the gate. Come in. Be quiet. Katya's asleep. The house was clean and cozy. Children's drawings hung on the walls. On the table was a photograph of a young woman with a child in her arms. That's Anna, said Mikhail, after she gave birth, a month before she died. Morozov sat down opposite him. Why did you throw the dress in the river? Mikhail was silent for a long time. Every year on May 7th, I come here, on the day she died. I bring flowers to the river where we once decided to die. That year, I took the dress with me. Why? I wanted to burn it. It was too painful to look at. But when I lit the fire, I couldn't do it. I threw it in the water and left. You knew that sooner or later someone would find it, didn't you? Mikhail nodded. I knew. Maybe I even wanted them to. Why? I was tired of hiding. Katya is growing up. She'll be starting school soon. She asks about her grandparents, and I don't know what to tell her. Morozov looked at the photograph. The girl looked very much like Anna when she was young. Your daughter doesn't know the truth? She thinks I'm her father, and her mother died of an illness. But she's smart. She'll figure it out soon enough. Where have you been all these years? After Anna died, I couldn't stay in Kansk. Everything reminded me of her. I took Katya and went wherever my eyes took me. We lived in different places, worked whatever jobs we could find. 2 years ago, I came back here. Why did you come back? Katya needs to know where she comes from, and then Mikhail looked out the window. I wanted to see my father-in-law's grave, to ask him for forgiveness. For what? For not being able to protect his daughter, for taking her so far away that she died alone in a foreign hospital. Morozov felt a lump in his throat. For 15 years, this man had carried the burden of guilt and loneliness. What about Anna's parents? Don't they know they have a granddaughter? Is Lydia Vasilievna well? She's alive. She's very upset. Mikhail covered his face with his hands. I thought about telling her the truth, but I was afraid. What if she wants to take Katya away, and I can't live without her? She's all I have left of Anna. A child's voice could be heard in the next room. Daddy, who's here? A little girl of about 3 appeared in the doorway. She had light hair and large gray eyes, just like her grandmother. Katya, meet Uncle Igor. The girl greeted him timidly. Uncle Igor, did you know my mom? Morozov was taken aback. What should he say to the child? Yes, I knew her. Your mom was a very nice woman. Why did she die? Katya, go play, Mikhail said gently. Uncle Igor and I need to talk. When the girl left, Morozov asked, What are you going to do now? I don't know. I guess it's time to stop pretending. Your father-in-law died in 1995. What about the people you were hiding from? I heard that one of them was killed in a shootout in the late 90s. The second one is in prison for another crime. The third became a deputy, a respectable man. It's unlikely that he needs to settle old scores now. So there's no more danger? Probably, but hiding has become second nature. Mikhail stood up and walked over to the window. You know what I dream about. I want Katya to meet her grandmother. I want her to know her real surname. I want her to grow up not as an outcast, but as a normal child. It's possible to arrange that. What if Lydia Vasilievna doesn't believe me? What if she thinks I'm lying? Does the girl have a mole on her left shoulder? Morozov asked unexpectedly. Mikhail was surprised. Yes, she does. How do you know? Anna had one just like it. Lydia Vasilievna told me. It will be the best proof. That evening, Morozov drove back to the region and thought about the strange fate that had befallen him. 15 years ago, a young couple had decided to fake their deaths to escape debt and threats. They obtained new documents, left for Siberia, and started a new life. They were happy for 10 years. They worked, dreamed of having children, and made plans. Then tragedy struck. Anna died in childbirth, leaving her husband with a young daughter. Mikhail couldn't stay in the place where they had been happy. He took his child and set off on a journey. He changed cities, jobs, names. But he couldn't forget the past. And 2 years ago, he returned home. Under a different name, with different documents. But home. Maybe he hoped to find peace. Or maybe he just wanted his daughter to grow up where her mother was born. And the dress in the river? It was a cry from the heart. A way to tell the world that Anna Sokolova was dead. But her memory lived on. Now the main thing was to decide what to do next. Mikhail forged documents and hid from justice. Formally, this is a crime. But what punishment could be fair for 15 years of suffering? And then there was Lydia Rogova, who didn't know she had a granddaughter, and little Katya, who had the right to know the truth about her family. Morozov looked at the road ahead. Tomorrow he would arrange a meeting between grandmother and granddaughter. And then he would have to decide what to do with Mikhail. The law is the law. But sometimes life turns out to be more complicated than any law. His cell phone vibrated with a message from journalist Vetrov. Igor Semenovich, I found another detail about the Severovs. They had a neighbor in Kansk, an old woman named Klavdia. She told everyone that Elena said strange things before she died. She asked someone to tell someone that she forgave them, but she didn't say who. Morozov pulled the car over to the side of the road. Who did Anna forgive before she died? Her father, who dragged her into this mess? Her husband, who took her away from her home, or herself, for agreeing to the deception? No one will ever know the answer to that question. But maybe it's time to forgive everyone who's still alive, including themselves. Part 3. Forgiveness. Lydia Rogova sat by the window and looked at the road. Morozov had warned her that he was bringing important news, but he hadn't said what it was. The woman was worried. After finding the dress, every day brought new shocks. The car stopped at the gate. Morozov got out, followed by an unfamiliar man with a little girl in his arms. Lydia opened the door and froze. The man looked like Mikhail, only older and with a beard. And the girl, my God, she whispered. Anechka. The girl looked at the unfamiliar woman with big gray eyes. Daddy, who is this lady? Why is she crying? Mikhail put his daughter down and took off his knitted cap. His hair was thinning and his temples were graying, but it was him. Hello, Lydia Vasilievna. The woman swayed, and Morozov caught her arm. Misha, is it really you? Yes. And this is Katya, your granddaughter, Anna's daughter. Lydia knelt down in front of the child. With trembling hands, she touched her face. Katya, you look so much like your mother. Did you know my mother? Asked the girl. Dad says she was nice. I knew her, sweetheart. She was my little girl. That means you're my granddaughter. Katya thought for a moment, then hugged Lydia around the neck. Grandma, do I have a grandmother now? Lydia cried even harder, hugging the little body close to her. 15 years of emptiness were suddenly filled with meaning. They sat down at the table in the house. Katya looked curiously at the photographs on the walls while the adults talked about the past. Why didn't you tell me before? Lydia asked. Why did you let me think that Anya was dead? Mikhail lowered his eyes. I was afraid. I thought you would want to take Katya away, and I couldn't give her up. She's all I have left of Anya. Tell me how she died. Mikhail was silent for a long time. Then he spoke quietly, looking out the window. Everything was fine. We lived peacefully for 10 years. We worked and saved money for a house. Anya dreamed of having a child. When she got pregnant, she was so happy. He fell silent, clenching his fists. The doctors in Kansk said everything was fine. But when she went into labor, something went wrong. There was bleeding that they couldn't stop. Did she suffer? No. She was unconscious at the end. She only woke up before she died, looked at Katya and said, "Tell Mom I forgive her, and I forgive Dad too." Lydia sobbed. She remembered us. She always remembered. Every year on May 7th we went to the river where we met. We brought flowers and remembered home. She said that someday we would return. Why didn't you come back sooner? Mikhail stood up and went to the window. Fear. We got used to hiding, and then Anya got sick during her pregnancy, and all we could think about was the baby. Katya, who had been quietly playing with her dolls in the corner, suddenly came up to Lydia. "Grandma, can I stay with you? I like it here." Mikhail turned pale. "Katya, we're just visiting." "But I want to live with Grandma," insisted the girl. "She has a big house and it smells good, and the photos are beautiful." Lydia looked at Mikhail. What if we all live together? The house is big. There's enough room for everyone." "I can't accept your kindness." Mikhail shook his head. "I'm a criminal. I forged documents, hid from the law." Morozov, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. "Mikhail, what if I tell you that the Sokolov case will be closed after the statute of limitations expires?" "How is that possible?" "The crime was committed in 1992. Document forgery has a statute of limitations of 10 years. Formally, you are no longer subject to punishment." "What about hiding from the investigation?" "What hiding? You disappeared voluntarily as adults. You didn't kill or rob anyone. At most, you'll face administrative liability for violating passport regulations." Mikhail didn't believe him. "What should I do?" "Restore your documents to your real name. Officially establish guardianship over your daughter. Start a normal life." There was a knock at the door. Journalist Vitrov was standing on the threshold with a camera. "Sorry for the intrusion. Can I ask you a couple of questions?" "No interviews," Mikhail said sharply. "Wait." Morozov stopped him. "Alexei helped with the investigation. He has a right to the material." "I won't publish anything personal," Vetrov assured him. "Only the facts. A love story that proved stronger than death." He took a yellowed photograph out of his bag. "I found this in the Kansk hospital archives. The last photo of Anna with her daughter. In the picture, a young woman was holding a newborn baby. Her face was tired but happy. She asked the nurse to take a picture of them together," said Vetrov. "She said she wanted to leave her daughter a memory of her mother." Lydia took the photograph with trembling hands. "My little girl, how I missed you." Katya came over and stood on tiptoe. "Is that my mom? She's so pretty." "Very pretty," agreed her grandmother. "And kind. You'll be just like her." Vetrov took several pictures of the reunited family, then put away his camera. "This will make a good story. Love lasts a lifetime." People should know that sometimes even the most complicated stories have a happy ending. "Is it really happy?" Mikhail asked quietly. "Look around you," Morozov replied. "Your daughter now has a grandmother. Lydia Vasilyevna has a granddaughter. You can live openly under your own name. Isn't that happiness?" Mikhail looked at Katya, who was showing Lydia her drawings. Anya dreamed of this. She wanted our daughter to know her family. Then make her dream come true. In the evening, after Vetrov left and Katya fell asleep in the crib that Lydia had kept for 15 years in the hope of having grandchildren, the adults sat in the kitchen drinking tea. "Mikhail, I want to ask you something," said Lydia. "Why did you throw the dress into the river?" He was silent for a long time, twirling the cup in his hands. "On the day Anya died, I promised her that if I ever came back home, I would tell you the truth. But when I arrived, I didn't dare go to your house. I was afraid. And the dress? It was like a message. I wanted you to know that we didn't drown in the river. We lived, loved each other, and were happy. And then Anya died, but not because of our sins. It was fate. And the note in your pocket? Anya wrote it in 1992. before she disappeared. I kept it as a memento. When I threw the dress away, I thought, let it be as she wanted. The last word will be hers. Lydia stood up, walked over to Mikhail, and put her hand on his shoulder. Son, I forgive you for everything. And Anya would have forgiven you too. The main thing is that Katya will now grow up surrounded by love. Can I come and visit sometimes, just to see her? Come and visit? Lydia was surprised. But you're at home here now. We have a daughter growing up together. Morozov watched the scene and thought about how strange life was. 15 years ago, a young couple had fled from death and found a new life. But the price had been too high. Loneliness, fear, and the loss of their roots. And now that the main secret had been revealed, everything fell into place. Mikhail had a family, Lydia had a purpose in life, and Katya had a grandmother and her real name. Igor Semenovich, Lydia called out. Thank you for not giving up, for getting to the bottom of this. It's my job. No, it's more than a job, it's justice. Morozov stood up, getting ready to leave. Mikhail caught up with him in the hallway. What will happen with the case, officially? I'll write a report saying that the newlyweds staged a suicide to escape threats from criminal elements. They lived in Siberia until the wife's death in 2004. The widower returned with his child and voluntarily turned himself in. That's all. That's all. No one was hurt except you. The punishment has already been served. 15 years of suffering. Morozov stepped outside. Evening was falling over the village, and the stars were reflected in the river. Somewhere down there, perhaps, the traces of that long-ago secret still lay. But the secret was no longer a secret. The white dress had surfaced not to accuse, but to liberate. To liberate from lies, from fear, from loneliness, and love. Love proved to be stronger than death. It lasted 15 years of separation, went through losses and trials, and in the end, led everyone to forgiveness. The next day, the regional newspapers came out with the headline, Love as Long as Life. How a Wedding Dress in the River Reunited a Family. Petrov's article began with the words, sometimes even the darkest secrets have a happy ending. And in Lydia Rogova's house, little Katya was drawing a picture. A house where her dad, grandmother, and angel mother live, who is looking down at them from heaven and smiling. And she is smiling because everyone has finally found their home.